Hello, and welcome to the CRN webinar in partnership with Veeam. My name is Victoria Pavlova, editor of CRN UK. Data protection has never been more important. In 2025, it's no exaggeration to say that data is the new oil. And as attack surfaces grow and endpoints increase, the pressure is on to ensure that data is secure and resilient. There is also a need for managed service providers to align their offerings with rising customer expectations, particularly in a time when competitiveness in the channel is high and profitability can be tough. Among these expectations is a real focus on operational simplicity, as well as services that are seamless and scalable. But what lies behind the growing customer demand for data protection and resilience? What are some of the biggest challenges MSPs and customers face? And how can MSPs effectively navigate these shifts and trends to unlock real value? Today, I'm joined by Mike Lewis, Principal Partner Marketing Manager at Veeam, and Brandon McCoy, Solution Architect, as well as Matt Harris, Content Strategist at CRN. And together, we'll be exploring how MSPs can simplify operations, strengthen customer trust, and accelerate revenue opportunity with unified data protection. Now I'll pass over to Matt, who will introduce the first part of our research.
Great. Thanks, Vic. We conducted a survey of around 60 or so channel leaders across EMEA on data protection and channel trends, and we'll be presenting and discussing this research across three distinct sections today. So our first section focuses really on market sentiment. The second section focuses on challenges and delivery. Our third and final section will focus on future priorities and a little bit of investment as well. So without further ado, let's jump into the first set of findings. So our first question we asked our respondents was, what are your top strategic priorities for 2026 as a MSP? So as you can see here, increasing profitability and reducing costs was really that biggest priority, closely followed by enhancing customer experience and growing recurring revenue streams as well. And then entering new markets and geographical expansion was named a top 3 challenge by around 10% or so of companies, so not a huge priority for that one. Next up, we asked our respondents to evaluate the current competitiveness and profitability in the market compared to this time last year. We found that over 2/3 of MSPs found it more competitive and less profitable than it was 12 months ago. Overall, 88% agreed that it's less competitive and 77% agree that it's less profitable. We then asked if they're currently delivering data protection, whether that's on-prem, infrastructure, cloud-hosted, SaaS-based services. We found that 86% of our respondents did in fact deliver some form of data protection, the majority of which kind of delivering an equal mix of those few options. How has customer demand for data protection, SaaS, and cloud-based backup changed in the past year? Really interesting this, we found that 91% of MSPs said that customer demand for data protection has increased in the past year, and just under a quarter of those surveyed says it's increased significantly.
Thanks, Matt. So an interesting opening set of findings. I don't know, Brandon and Mike, if there was anything surprising in there for you. Feel free to weigh in. But my first specific question is going to be around the increasing profitability, growing recurring streams of revenue, and reducing operational costs, which are some of the biggest priorities for MSPs as we head into 2026. So 2/3 say that the current market is more competitive and less profitable than it was 12 months ago. It's a little bit bleak. So what does this mean in practice, and how can MSPs effectively profitize data protection in an increasingly crowded market?
Yeah, I'll kick this one off, Victoria, and thank you. Yes, Mike Lewis. I've been at Veeam now for about 6.5 years. I'm on the global partner marketing team, and really excited about this research. From what I saw, what came over, we already took a look at it. But yeah, when it comes to increasing profitability in a competitive market, I think MSPs really need to kind of step back and look at the way that they strategize their business, and when they're talking to their customers, and really having that seat at the table as a trusted advisor is what comes into play, right? They need to kind of get away from that break fix, reactive mindset and get more into that strategic mindset where, they have to focus on what the core business needs and how that they can fit data protection into that overall business strategy, and really ensuring that data protection is part of a comprehensive, complete security strategy, especially when it comes to data governance. And Offering data protection as a managed service really allows MSPs to lock in those customers, scalable subscription-based models and things like that. But also, having those conversations at quarterly business reviews and talking about what's coming next, right? Because as a trusted advisor, the MSP really is, who the business is looking at when, what's on the rise, what risks are out there, especially when it comes to data. And then data coming in from all different channels now. There's so much data out there. Just showing the company how that they can govern that, and especially when it comes to compliance and all of that. So data protection really fits in there. And then from the MSP side, it's great, right? They're going to talk about all this stuff, but they really need to figure out a way that they can reduce their operational overhead when they're delivering data protection, and not just the protection and storing the data here, but what do they need to do to be able to quickly recover that data as well? So they got to think about it from both sides of the lens. And I think MSPs really have a strong foothold in those conversations and really educating the business around that.
Right. That trusted advisor position is what every MSP is aiming for. Great. So, Brandon, this next one might be for you. 91% of MSPs surveyed said the customer demand for data protection, SaaS, and cloud-based backup has increased in the past year. What do you see as the reason for that increase in demand?
Yeah, so I've been at Veeam for around 9 years, solution architect supporting our Veeam Cloud and service providers, and it's really been amazing to see kind of the growth in not only the desire for data protection, but the evolution of it. You talked earlier about how valuable data is, being more valuable than oil. Data is the lifeblood of any organization. We can't function without it. And we've also seen a change in kind of the thinking around, at first, well, I need a backup for my on-prem solutions, but everything in the cloud is in the cloud, so it's protected. Now we realize, oh, there's the shared responsibility model. We need data protection solutions to meet us wherever we are. We see apps continuing to evolve, data sprawl. So customers have different workloads, different applications and platforms. And it's a great chance for MSPs to be able to capitalize that too. That's why Veeam is such a great vendor, because we have so many different products that are very flexible and can meet those customers wherever they are. Ransomware continues to grow not only in size but in sophistication. We're reaching into the billions of dollars of damages, not only in the loss of data and work time, but also in reputation of businesses. So I think more and more, we just realize how important data is, and we have to be agile and continue to keep up with the flexibility as it continues to grow and kind of change and adapt.
Absolutely. Thanks for that succinct summary, Brandon. Data is the new oil is a lovely saying, but it's an imperfect metaphor, right? Because unlike oil, data is abundant and only increasing in quantity, and the winners are going to be those that manage to wrangle it and implement effective governance. Right. So on to my next question. What can MSPs be doing to really capitalize on this increase in demand, particularly at a time when increasing profitability is such a top priority? Mike, what do you think?
Yeah. So when we talk about the demand, and it goes back to what I said before, there's so much data and there's so many different platforms that organizations are using now, especially when they move into a lot of SaaS-based solutions. They have cloud-based solutions, and it's got data everywhere. And I'm really depending on what that business organization looks like and where they're hosting their platforms is really going to make the most sense for the MSP to take a look at, how am I centralizing all this, right? How am I automating this just so it helps take the burden off of my team. I have the ability to centralize where I perform most of my business, especially when it comes to not just performing the day-to-day backups and the restores and the management of the data, but where am I getting my reporting from? Is everything in an easy one-stop shop spot to go to, and I can organize everything and make sure that I have a 35,000 foot view of what my customers' data governance looks like. And I think that's really important because the MSP is going to continuously want to upsell and drive more business, more recurring revenue, and that's just gonna cause more of a burden on their teams and things like that. So they really need to step back and look at it from a strategic perspective. And I think about, AI coming into play now too. There's just going to be more data with that. You're going to have SMB type businesses. They're going to be downloading different types of software and things that they want to use, but the MSP really needs to be that trusted advisor that sets the strategy of where the data is going to live, where the data is coming from, and what the organization should be using. But so education matters. I mean, the MSP service providers or IT consultant, whatever you call yourself, you just got to make sure that the organization is educated on the risks to the data, and then also the risks to having too much data, because that can be a problem too, right? You start having data from all different sources, and now you're creating vulnerabilities, and then that's a big deal. So when the demand is there, yes, you can upsell, you can drive profitability, but you also have to be strategic about how you're taking care of that data, how you're governing it, and meeting the frameworks. There's so many frameworks out there from security and compliance and things like that. So they really need to make sure that they are the ones that are setting the tone, setting the strategy, and working with the business to make sure it's implemented.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. I mean, I love that you brought in the AI point because I remember, and we probably all do, a decade ago during the kind of SaaS boom when shadow IT absolutely exploded. Everyone was using disparate solutions, and then CIOs and partners ended up with an absolutely insane kind of sprawl of
Yeah, it's going
IT
to happen again, if it's not already.
already is. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. Right, let's move on to the next set of findings. Over to you, Matt.
Yep, great. Thanks, guys. So yeah, the next section we have here is really around challenges and delivery. And the first question we asked in this section was, how confident are you in your current ability to meet customer data resilience expectations today? And obviously we see a lot of confidence here, but I think perhaps the most important part of this is 1 in 10 MSPs are not confident that the data protection that they're offering to customers is actually going to meet expectations. So yeah, that's probably the most important takeaway there. Moving on to challenges, and there's obviously quite a lot here. We asked respondents to really list their top 3 concerns at the moment, and perhaps unsurprisingly, managing costs while maintaining margins right at the top there, followed by demonstrating value and ROI to customers. And of course, meeting customer security and compliance demands was also a top challenge there. Moving on, we asked how they currently deliver data protection services to their clients. And we see a wide range in how they deliver it. It's mostly managed internally or a mix of multiple approaches. And I think these numbers really suggest that MSPs are quite hands-on in terms of managing at least some part of this process. And then we see there just around 1 in 5 either fully outsource that or deliver it through a SaaS platform. Next up, we asked how challenging it is for their teams to manage updates, patches, integrations across their backup solutions today. We found that just under 2/3 of respondents say it's somewhat challenging for their team to manage these things, and 5% of our respondents said that it was extremely challenging.
Great. Thank you, Matt. For anyone tuning in on demand, feel free to pause the video and take in the graphs. There's obviously quite a lot of information being shared here. But I will throw the next question to you, Mike. Among the cost-related challenges, proving value and ROI to customers was named as a huge concern. How can MSPs really prove that value, particularly at a time when customer demand and interest is so high?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I really think it comes down to demonstrating the impact that they have had with other customers, and showing real life scenarios is key, right? And not just from, what they've done, but what have vendors found in the past. And I think the vendor relationship starts to come into play here. Vendors like Veeam, we are the thought leaders. We're the ones that are setting the strategy. We're also developing the products. And when we do develop the products, the roadmaps align to what's coming next. And I think it's really important that the MSP just aligns with a strong vendor that's in the market that can kind of foresee these things that are coming. Providing the tools that the MSPs are going to need to meet these real world objectives, because without the right tools, and you're just going to drown. And we're starting to kind of see that out in the market. with MSPs, going back to that first slide where it says, I'm confident, but I'm still not where I feel like I need to be. And that's really where the vendor has to really step in and guide MSPs to where they should go, because nobody's going to know everything, right? We're all fallible. I mean, an MSP is only going to know as much as the market is telling them. And everyone's busy. So it's hard to step back and say, I'm going to spend this much amount of time, looking into the future and kind of, guesstimating what's coming next, and where I need to set my focus, because everyone's kind of sets their focus for the year and everyone looks into the future for maybe 6-12 months, but just making sure that they have a good relationship with a vendor that's going to kind of guide them in the right path and provide them with those tools that they need to be able to meet those SLAs, and anything that they promise, make sure that the vendor's aligned with that as well too, because you're going to be as good as your technology is. You're also going to be as good as what your knowledge base is. So, and I think Veeam does a really good job of kind of setting the tone for not just the market, but also from the technology as well.
Absolutely. We saw quite a range in answers when we asked MSPs how they deliver data protection services to their clients. Do you see any of these methods as better than others? And what stands out to you the most, Brandon?
Yeah, so I don't think there's really a one size fits all. I think what's more important is that the MSPs adopt a strategy that works best for them and their customers. They don't want to stretch themselves too far and too thin and trying to do everything, but they also don't want to be stagnant and cornered into just one kind of method over the other. I think they have to be agile. And again, that kind of goes back to the different solutions, whether it's SaaS, whether it's on-prem, cloud hosted. I think they have to have a lot of different tools and, kind of use whichever one best suits them.
And then managing updates and patches across backup solutions has also emerged as a challenge. Do you have any actionable advice there, Brandon?
Yeah, 3 words: Veeam Data Cloud. No, so that is one option, right? Moving to a SaaS-based platform where a lot of the updates and patches are taken care of for you, that you don't have to worry about anything. Just in a more general sense, from when it comes to patches, updates, hot fixes, yeah, do it often. Make sure you're keeping up. When it comes to upgrades, maybe hold out a little bit, right? We don't always want to be on the bleeding edge of technology. We want to make sure that everything is fully baked. Sometimes I see things like people waiting too long to upgrade as well, and they'll jump from, say, version 5 to 6 to 7 right away. They didn't realize that in the last version, we made some major changes that now maybe it breaks like all their APIs or something in the background. Back up your stuff and test it right before you do all these things. If you're not looking for the SaaS solutions, or if the vendor like Veeam, not all of our products are fully hosted yet, invest in single panes of glasses, right? Veeam has the Veeam Service Provider console, so you can bring a lot of those into one view, and it can push out a lot of those updates and patches. Veeam also has the Veeam software appliance. So rather than having to put our software on a Windows machine that you constantly have to upgrade the OS, we're just really moving a lot of that work back to the vendor and letting them take care of a lot of those updates and patches so that you can get back to focusing on what you do best.
And I'll piggyback on that just a little bit too. Brandon made a really good point about testing your solutions and making sure you're on the latest version, because every time that we release a new version, especially with the security landscape that it is today, and a lot of what Veeam has been focusing on the past couple of years is just making sure that things are hardened, the security is there, and we also provide a lot of free documentation, right? The Veeam Help Center, you can go out there for free. You don't have to even be a customer or a partner. You can go to the Help Center. You can read up on what the latest and the greatest is, and the most recent versions of our products, and really get a sense if this product is going to meet what your strategy is going to be coming up, and also does it meet the frameworks that you're looking to comply to.
Thanks, Mike. So the resources are there. In the words of Mr. T, check yourself before you wreck yourself. I think that was Mr. T. Great, thank you. Let's move on to the next set of findings, Matt.
Great, thanks, guys. And yeah, these next set definitely touched on some of those features you mentioned. So we asked first question, our final set: what would most accelerate your ability to scale managed backup services? There is quite a nice spread here. Simplifying client onboarding and reporting is the sort of biggest chunk there, but we also see quite a big sort of response from those surveyed in expanding automation and SaaS delivery and strengthening built-in security and compliance as well. We dig into these features a little bit deeper in our next question. There is quite a lot to unpack here, but we essentially asked the people that we surveyed to sort of rank features based on how important it would be for them. And some of those features you see sort of below with the scalability, actionable insights. All of these were named as important, right? But I think the security and trust feature was really named as the most important out of these. So yeah, there's quite a lot to unpack there, but they're all important across the board for our respondents. Final question that we asked as part of this survey was: how important is vendor partnership and ongoing enablement when selecting a backup and resilience provider? And there's a pretty resounding answer there. 95% of respondents said that it was very important or important.
Great. I think that's my cue. Quite a lot of information to unpack there. But again, if you're watching this on demand, feel free to pause, go back, absorb kind of all of the findings. Mike, simplifying client onboarding and reporting was said to be most accelerate the ability of our respondents in scaling managed backup services. Why is that simplification so valuable today?
Yeah, and I think it just kind of goes back to what we've been saying. The demand is so high of, what clients are looking to protect and what the MSPs and the service providers are looking to, include into that ongoing strategy, especially when it comes from that trusted advisor standpoint. So being able to simplify onboarding, just a faster time to value is really what it comes down to. Depending on your situation, if you're going to go with a SaaS-based backup solution, you're going to get the most, we'll call it bang for your buck there, because everything is already, it's only a few clicks away to get started. And I think with the time to value and minimizing the resource drain on the MSPs, technical teams, if they're working with an organization that might have an internal IT team that they're kind of co-managing with, that's another group of individuals that you have to take into account. Like, I don't want to waste their time. We need to get some the value as fast as we can. So just simplifying that onboarding process allows them to add those new clients, and just reduce that time to value. And I think Veeam does a really good job with that, especially with, like Brandon mentioned, Veeam Data Cloud. It's just a few clicks away and you're ready to go. And everything is up to date to where it needs to be, so you don't have to worry about that ongoing patching and the management and provisioning more storage and more hardware. Everything is already baked for you, so just helps get you going quick. And in a fast moving competitive market, going back to question 1 in the very beginning of this webinar, it is competitive, and if you can't meet the needs, they're going to find someone else that will, and you just don't want to be in that spot. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's important to minimize that time to value, but in the appropriate places rather than
Correct.
in somewhere along your migration or
Yeah.
something that can break the service you're providing.
Yeah. And a SaaS-based solution might not be what works for that client, right? And you might have to build out a solution, and we offer all the tools that you need to do that for, but it's kind of up to you as a service provider to decide, is this solution that my vendor offers me going to work for everything? And it might not. So you're going to have to make that decision. But still, you can, you can definitely find ways, and your technical teams can find ways to make that onboarding process as smooth and as quick as possible. And that's just more of that proactive approach to where that's going to help you in the future. Because if you can streamline onboarding from the beginning, you don't have to worry about that, 3 months down the road when, something else, if you onboard more clients and your business is starting to grow, you can have a plan in place to make that as seamless as possible.
Absolutely. I love that advice. Thanks, Mike. Brandon, our respondents valued everything on that list of features and benefits we provided. And there was quite a lot there. Could you talk us through some of the points there and how MSPs can better access some of these resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything on this list makes total sense, especially in kind of the ways we were talking about the flexibility, the sprawl of data growth. So you start with these, single pane of glass. MSPs want fewer windows. If you're having to log in to 10 different screens for 10 different products, and a lot of these MSPs, we'd love it if they all just use Veeam, but a lot of times they have a lot of different solutions. So being able to track all those from a single place and getting unified, not only visibility, but reporting and monitoring, super important. Being able to scale, Mike just talked about that, all the way from the onboarding to day one and day two operations and ongoing, being proactive with all that. So not just reacting to the next demand, but seeing kind of what's coming and being ready to implement those is huge. The security and trust is a big one as well, and that kind of also ties in a few columns down with the RBAC. So a lot of times we feel like security and efficiency don't really go together, but I think that you can kind of make those a cooperative when you use things like role-based access controls, granular fine, accessibility, so that you can create roles and groups and users can do what they need to, but you can still keep everything safe and secure. Veeam has come a long way from being just a backup solution to a full-blown data protection solution. We've made some acquisitions with companies like Security AI, and just being able to use our data in a better way and making sure that security is top of mind with your data protection. And the accelerated business growth. I think it all kind of ties together from, again, the onboarding to the operational day-to-day.
Absolutely does. Thank you, Brandon. We saw a pretty resounding answer from our audience. But finally, I'd love to hear in your own words just how important that vendor partnership and ongoing enablement really is. Mike?
Yeah, and I think I've said it a few times already throughout the webinar, but ultimately the right partnership will enable you to focus on your business. And I think that's the most important thing here, right? Focus on your customers, but also allow you to scale your operations and make money. I mean, we're all in business we're all here to make money. Of course, we want to help people and we want to do the right thing and we want to make sure that our business is successful. But at the same time, you want to align yourself with a partner program that is fit for your needs. Veeam offers a great Veeam cloud and service provider program with, flexible licensing. So you can scale up, you can scale down as needed. Things change. Obviously, you're going to lose some customers. You might have some churn here and there. The goal is to continue to build that customer base, but you want to have a licensing model that fits. And Veeam does a really, really good job with that. And the longer that you're the longer you're in that program, Veeam or any other program, you want to make sure that the more business that you're bringing to that vendor, you're starting to see those discounts on the back end. That's just going to help your margin. And we do a really good job at that as well. And when you look at enablement, I talked about MSPs and service providers looking at vendors to be that thought leadership and kind of guide the ship and the market and where we're going. And we've won CRN awards over the past few years for having a really, really outstanding partner program. And I think enablement is a big part of that, making sure that the MSPs and the service providers and our value-added resellers too, our VARs, making sure that they have the enablement that they need so that their sales teams are trained. So when their technicians are in the field, when their salespeople are in the field, they're saying the right things, right? Because a lot of times a service provider's customer might not know, and they're really going to be taking the advice from the service provider on where to go and what they need to do. And I think the enablement piece is big. Also, from a marketing your services as a service provider, as a reseller, you have to be able to market your services to your base and also look for new potential clients as well. And just look for a vendor that's going to help you there. We offer a lot of co-marketing initiatives, co-selling initiatives that we do here at Veeam. So just help you through that marketing cycle, help you through that sales cycle, and start, building your business. Because, with any vendor, Veeam included, when you were successful as a service provider and as a reseller, then in turn we are. So you can just see the cycle continues. And I think that's where, it's important to have a really good partnership and relationship with your vendor, and just, making sure that they're providing you with what you need.
Great, thank you. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with several call to actions in a webinar, and I'm sure the marketing team will be very pleased with us. Thank you guys for a very kind of well-rounded conversation. We've covered a lot of ground in a really short space of time, and thanks, Matt, for conducting the research. Talking of plugs and calls to action, if attendees want to reach out to either you, Mike, or Brandon, after the fact, how can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest way is obviously Veeam.com is where you're going to find the most information. We'll have some slides that will appear during this webinar as well too, where there's going to be some QR codes and things like that, where you can get started with the Veeam Cloud Service Provider program right away. It's free to join, so really no risk there. But from that will come conversations with our sales teams, and just kind of see where you're at and where you want to go, and if we're the right fit for you. But yeah, I think Veeam.com is definitely the place to head over to.
Great. Thank you so much, guys, for your time and insights. And thank you, everyone tuning in to the webinar.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you.